Welcome to the channel, folks. Thanks for visiting. AvAngel made a wonderful review video of the IniBuild's P-40 Warhawk here in the past couple of weeks, and I wanted to respond with my own video. In that video, she had mentioned she had thought there was an earlier P-40 that was released. Well, there was, and many of the comments alluded to that. It was a P-40 Tomahawk issued by Big Radials. Some of the comments I thought made it sound like the Warhawk was a superior airplane. And here I'd like to counter with the argument for the Big Radials version. And I'm glad you are along. If you like what you see, I'd sure appreciate a thumbs up. If you watch a little of the video, I encourage you to watch to the end. If you've watched the whole video, take on another one. If you like my videos, come back and hit the subscribe button. We'd love to have you along for the ride. Anyway, we are at the same airport that AvAngel was at. We're here at Orcas Island, KORS, in the San Juan Islands of Washington State. Not too terribly far from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, Vancouver Island. When Orbic started developing scenery, I wasn't sure if it was for FSX or FS9, but one of the early areas of their concentration was on the Pacific Northwest. I think the first package they ever put out was the Pacific Northwest, and shortly after that they did an Orcas Island. I think Orcas might have been the very first airport that Orcas ever featured. And it's been in all the different iterations of Flight Simulator. It's been in FSX and P3D and now in MS. I think there was one for X-Plane and now also for MSFS 2020. So really wonderful scenery. Look at the block letters on the top of this building just off our right wingtip. And just to the one end is the terminal building. During certain times of day, you'll see groups of passengers lining up for the daily caravan flight. Wonderful rendition of this little airport, this wonderful scenic part of the country, the Pacific Northwest. Anyway, we're here looking at the P-40 Tomahawk by Big Radials. Looking at the external model, I don't find any fault with it. Now, it's a little unfair to compare this particular version. This is the chrome civilian version, one of the liveries that's offered, and I think it just looks superior. I don't see a general... I guess if you go into the wheel wells, you might find a little bit of compromise. But generally speaking, no compromise to the exterior model. Looks just great. Matter of fact, looking in the wheel wells right there, that looks stunning. Anyway, also interior, not much compromise going on there either. I like the rendition of the cowling and the material that was used. Looks kind of like a leathery material on this cowling. And this faceplate to the instrument panel looks to me like it's preceded before a void where the guns are housed, and that to me seems true to life. You would not want this faceplate touching the guns because the vibration would make flying almost impossible. And I don't know if the P-40 collects its brass within that void. I don't know what happens behind that void, but this panel here looks very authentic to me, and the welds used to create these joints in the guns, very authentic. This came from the Orbix website. I don't know if they have a restriction on armament, but these aren't really truly guns. If you pop open this port, you can see there's some toggle switches. You can see the previous owner has left us some handwritten notes, takeoff procedures and landing tips. They're written in a script reminiscent of the 1940s style, and they're on yellowed paper, just as you might see from a friend leaving you some flying tips. In the other gun port is a very handy modern transponder and comm radio, which I imagine is much better than trying to figure out the avionics of 1940. So in all, fantastic job. The preset views are very helpful. There's the fuel gauges, the shutter valves, voice control on the right. I think there on the right is some of that 1940s avionics. Here on the left-hand side, we've got a switch panel, some circuit breakers, propeller, mixture, switches, fuel control valve. Back here, landing gear, flap control. Everything a growing girl or boy needs to fly their P-40 Tomahawk. So, Big Radials has done more than its share to make this a fantastic airplane. Now, this is a challenging airplane to fly. You wouldn't want to take it sightseeing necessarily. It doesn't have any navigation instruments on it. It's extremely loud, and it, of course, being a tail dragger, is more of a challenge to take off and land than your typical Cessna. But we're going to give it a go. I've intentionally turned down the volume because the sounds of this machine are just incredible. But before I turn up the volume, I want to show you one more feature. In this particular airplane, you can break through the glass on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, and on the top to give you some advantage in flying it that you wouldn't normally have. So you can climb out of the cockpit on the top and on the left and right-hand sides. And this really comes in handy when landing and taking off. Look at the exhaust coming off of those ports. You can almost see the sequential firing of the engines. I think, and this really showcases the quality of the build. Just a wonderful aircraft. So, let's throttle up. Our intention today is to fly north, runway 34, depart to the north, make an easy, gentle left banking turn to the west, and then come in for a landing at runway 16 at Friday Harbor, which is not terribly far away. So, very quick flight today. Let's hop back aboard, get those thundering radials up to their throaty volume the way they should be. Orcas traffic, Army 4 Tree, taking runway Tree 4, departing to the west. Orcas. Let's release the parking brake. Be mindful of the incredible P factor and torque. So have a healthy amount of right rudder. And be ready with the elevator. Keep the attitude roughly the same as the attitude on the ground throughout the takeoff. Now come on, how cool was that? That landing gear animation was fantastic. A little bit of a clearing turn. One of the other things I like about this airplane is that the airspeed gauge is actually in miles per hour. And the first airplanes I flew, the airspeed gauge was always in miles per hour. So that gives me a nice warm fuzzy. Reminds me of simpler times. Just as in AvAngel's review, the P-40 is a very slippery aircraft. So speed control in the descent is critical. Friday Harbor traffic, Army 4 tree, approaching on final for runway 16 Friday Harbor. Friday Harbor traffic, Army 4 tree, on extended final for runway 16 Friday Harbor. And I can barely control taking off and landing this tail dragger. One thing I am absolutely not good at is taxiing a tail dragger. So I must admit my limitations, and I'm not even going to try. Oh my goodness, what a wonderfully loud airplane this is. I am high. I'm not fast. I'm on speed, but I'm high. Oh! Which one of those landings counted? I don't know. What a wonderful experience. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks, AvAngel, for your wonderful review of the P-40 by IniBuilds. Hope you folks enjoyed this view of the P-40 Tomahawk by Big Radials. Hope to see you again. Goodbye for now.